What if you decided you wanted to make the most out of your life by a challenge to become the best version of yourself through service within the United States military? What if you pushed yourself to become a Special Forces operator and continued to beat the odds stacked against you time and time again? What if you found that the system was biased based on factors beyond your control, as the way you were looked at was determined by the color of your skin? What if you leaned into that fact to prove the naysayers wrong and created a project to showcase the actions of some of the best to have ever served that came from diverse and marginalized communities? Join me as I speak with Ruben Ayala about his path as a founding member and CEO of Triple Nikel Clothing Company, writer and executive producer of the Black Ops History Project, and director of the Black Ops Foundation. This is Veteran Success Story. Welcome to another episode of Veteran Success Story. In this episode, I had the opportunity to sit down with Ruben Ayala, who is a Special Forces veteran and one of the founders of the Triple Nikel Clothing Company. He's since then gone on to start the Black Ops History Project, as well as he is one of the directors of the Black Ops Foundation. Guys, this is a heck of a story, and it's a message that needs to be conveyed, needs to be put out there. So I'm really excited to be able to do that. And we had a heck of a conversation in overcoming adversity and really just that constant scramble that Ruben's been in as opportunities arise, and he answers the call basically. So I also have to say is please like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you can. I want to keep the show free, and as such, I need to be able to monetize this sort of thing. So I don't want to inundate you with a bunch of sponsors. We might have something coming down the pipeline on that, but I don't want it to be the focus of this show. The focus of this show is to inspire the audience, as well as convey a bunch of information that's useful to others and help you guys out as well. So like, follow, subscribe, and I hope you enjoy this episode as I sit down with Ruben Ayala, and I know you guys are going to love it too. Welcome to another Veteran Success Story. Today we're talking with Ruben Ayala, which is one of the founders of Triple Nikel Clothing Company. You guys, man, you have a bunch of other things going on too that is just progressed over the time. And I don't know if that's, it just seems like a lot of the people that push the envelope within their time in service, like post-service, they just continue what they're doing. You guys have the Black Ops project going on, and we were talking a little prior about what you're doing with the foundation and everything. It's fantastic, and it's great to have you on the show.
I appreciate you having me, Will. Honor to be here.
No, it's honor's all mine, man. That's part of the show, is amplifying voices out there within the veteran community and showing some of the good that's out there, but then also how those people got to where they're at, because we all know it's a journey. It's uh, the struggle to get there and what you learn along the way. It helps others either get through it or see a different path in their own when they're struggling. I know I've had some of the Zoom chats and stuff with some of the guys that I've been on with, where you get a group together and the guys start talking, and more times than not, one of them will start offloading some issues they're having in life. And there's always someone else out there that pipes up and they're like, hey man, you know what? Either like they'll discuss it right then and there, or they'll be like, let me talk to you sideline about what I've been through. I've been through the same thing, or I can relate there. And it's those support systems that are just, they're incredible to have. And it's kind of what's led to doing this show and expanding that reach of stuff.
Nope,
So
it's funny how that works, man. I
it
see it all the
is.
time.
It is. So I know, again, we were talking about it in the beginning, but I don't want to get too much onto the service end of things. But your path to Special Forces, as far as being somebody who, there's gatekeepers along the way, and whatnot, it's not an easy path. And it almost seems like sometimes there's no diversity within the groups. There's a lot of minorities and stuff that get pushed out or gate kept along the way. And I've seen it myself. I saw it myself in one of my selection classes. And I know I was talking about that gentleman beforehand during his swim test and stuff. And he was it was a guy from Chicago. Um, black man from Chicago that was just serving his country, and the amount of ripping into and ribbing that these people just went over and above on it. And then I just kept seeing it throughout. And I was just like, I didn't think too much of it at the time because I was just like, I couldn't relate. But then afterwards started thinking about it and I was like, man, like what is going on here? Why would someone rip into someone like that? We're all the same out here and we all met these qualifications. Like, why would that? Why would the color of someone's skin or the difference in somebody be the issue here? I'm sure it's something that you faced, and I know that in the founding of Triple Nickel, I know that was part of the why you guys created it. Seems like was that you were trying to bring strength to that diversity end of things. That we are stronger through our diversity out there. So you want to go into a little bit about that, about your end and your experience there?
Yeah, sure.
I know it's a mouthful right there, man.
It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack, but we've been on this road and journey now for almost 5 years now, so it gets a little bit easier to unpack instead of just rambling on about all the different life experiences that we've had. But yeah, I'll start off by saying bluntly that SOCOM is probably the most undiverse organization in the U.S. military, and it's not by design. I want to start by saying that, and I'm not going to sit here and state that, the organization is purposefully a, racist organization or anything like that. It's like that given the makeup of the organization. If you don't see yourself in a place, it's not going to motivate others to follow you into that place. So with our work with Black Ops, which I know we'll go into, we've had a pretty good time in speaking with multiple generations of underserved veterans within special operations from the late 1940s to present, and
Yeah.
it's been awesome to listen to the stories of how we started to get minorities into special operations after JFK opened up the doors to special operations,
Mhm.
with formally recognizing the Green Berets in 1961, starting up the SEAL teams in 1960, 1961. At that point in time, special operations was still segregated,
Mhm.
unofficially. The military desegregated in 1948, and we went into Korea still segregated. The Second Ranger Company was an all-black Ranger unit, still the only all-black special operations unit to deploy into combat. They were the first Ranger organization to make a combat jump into combat territory, and still highly unrecognized. So going into the 60s, with the need and the surge to fight the Vietnam War, you start seeing an influx of minorities coming in into these roles. And the biggest sentiment from these veterans who served during that time frame was, we wanted to be seen, we wanted to be recognized, we wanted to go into the units that would challenge us. So early on, you start seeing a big influx of Latinos, Blacks, Asians, Native Americans going into these roles. After Vietnam and they had the reduction in force, you start seeing a lot of them go by the wayside, and the units now stabilize, and you get a majority white force. Which brings us to the present. We have a gap in leadership with underserved communities. And, from our standpoint, given that it's special operations and we deal mostly with third world countries around the world, I feel that diversity within communities inside these organizations makes the force more lethal. It makes it more agile. It makes it more um, capable of operating in these environments
Yeah.
that maybe folks from that element can relate to.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it from that angle, not so much like, hey, I just want to see people that look like me, because that's very one-sided view.
Yeah.
Although I do But when you look at the lethality of it, diversity is a strength. And from that point of view, we decided to do what we do so that maybe we can inspire some people to say, hey, it's I think I would want to become a Green Beret sometime in the future. Or I would like to be a Navy SEAL, or dispel the myth that Black people can swim. So, long story short, I've seen it. Um, it's not by design. It just is what it is, and it takes more people like us to come out and just say what everybody's thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and have these open discussions about it. And I know
Yeah.
sometimes those discussions can be uncomfortable. And, sometimes the people in power are like, it's just like some of the more recent changes in the military and stuff. I shake my head at and I go, like, how do you think you're going to roll back something that has been fought for along the way and diversified along the way? Like, what in the heck are you thinking? Like, this is not like some of these policies, it blows my mind. And I don't know if that was the original intent or, or what, but I would think that at this point, people have proven themselves. And that's, especially
Hmm.
within the special operations community, I have seen some of the best people that are over there are the ones that are either foreign nationals that have come over or immigrants, and just some of the best people that are proud to fight for this country. And they are like, I've earned every bit along the way and I continue to every day. And they prove it through their actions. They're not talk, and those were some of the best guys I had the opportunity to serve with. And I'm sure a lot of that echoes with you.
Yeah, 100%. Perception is reality. We like to say that a lot in the military. And as much as, just come out and say it, you want to, you're the current Secretary of Defense, and, your watchword is that diversity is our strength is the dumbest thing you've ever heard.
Yep.
I don't agree with that statement at all.
No.
Because yes, lethality is 100% needs to be the number one thing that the Department of Defense needs to concern itself with. However, when you marginalize your force
Mhm.
and you create a state of morale where people do not want to serve, feel like they're not being cherished for
Yep.
their gifts, their time, their equity share in what it is that they want to do, that's not good leadership.
No.
And I think that that's something that there needs to be some reflection in the current administration and how they go about these things. It's a hammer versus taking a scalpel approach to it.
Yeah.
So
Well, they're also creating an echo chamber. It's
yeah,
you're not hearing those other viewpoints or that other side of it without them being there. It's
yeah,
crazy, and you have a whole side that you're blindsiding yourself from. It's just insane to me.
100, man. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
No, I know, and that's the whole reason. I mean, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where the founding of Triple Nickel started with. Do you want to go back and talk a little bit about kind of the origin of Triple Nickel within the military and like your inspiration to use that as the basis around the clothing company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's late 2020, and I myself, my partners, Chris McPhee, Cortez Riggs, and Rod Graham, we did not like what we saw um, domestically at the time.
Yeah.
The country's divisive. We're going into an election that is very, very divisive, to say the least. And the thing that got me the most was, on social media, everybody's home because of COVID restrictions, and I'm constantly getting targeted by all these veteran companies, whether it's clothing, whatever.
Mhm.
And from what I saw, the majority of veteran-owned companies had this very, very alt-right, very
It's cookie cutter.
let's yeah,
It's
let's
the
just
same
say that
thing. Yeah.
the pendulum was so swung to one side
Hmm.
that, hey, if you're a patriot, you got to meet this criteria, this criteria, this criteria. And at the end, when you draw an avatar, that avatar looks like a big Viking with tattoos, looks like Thor. And, I didn't like it,
Yeah.
and, my kid is growing up and he's seeing these images. What does that say to a kid like that?
Hmm.
That's not me. So I thought it was wrong. And, in our naive minds, we're like, hey, the easiest thing we can do is to get in the fight and let's create a clothing company just like every other veteran does because it seems easy. And let's tell stories through mediums that everybody wears every day.
Yeah.
And that was the idea of Triple Nickel. Um, we didn't know how to make clothing, still really don't, and we just wanted to just be the antithesis of what we saw out there. So it was honestly not a lot of thought. We put the company together in 60 days, and we launched. Man, we thought we were gonna just change the world. Very naive.
Uh, That's the same with any of the great ideas out there too. Anybody who's been at that point, you can do the analysis by, what is it, analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis. You just sit there and run your head around it, and then you never get anywhere. Or you could just do it and learn along the way, which is really on how, your background and everything, and some of the guys that you had mentioned there. You know, we adjust on the fly, and we're very good at it. And it's what that's part of the whole, I guess, American military mindset too. Is what is it? How are you going to fight someone without a plan, without a
That's it.
core plan? So
Yeah.
no, it's cool to see how you guys like adjusted on that end and everything. I mean, like, so how did you guys go about getting the deal with Kohl's there? I know they must have had like a diversity initiative at one point, and then would you just put in contracts and stuff for it, and then it got it back, and like, holy crap, we need to produce like time now. I heard a little bit of the story behind that before.
Yeah, I always like telling the story. It's very much a Cinderella story. Um, there would be no triple nickel without COVID. COVID allowed us the opportunity to just be at home. Everybody who had a job was working from home, or their companies really slowed up. So that's the first domino. The second domino is the first Trump administration, bringing in, with President Biden after him. It created a scene in the country that allowed for open mindedness about certain diversity initiatives.
Yeah.
So those two things really allowed us to go into Kohl's. So Kohl's at the time, 2022, 2023, they wanted to search for independent brands that were locally owned. And going into Veterans Day, they wanted to feature a veteran owned brand who was relatively unknown, who had a open mind about the communities that we lived in, wasn't this far alt right Viking, I'm gonna throat punch you every 5 minutes type of vibe, and we fit the bill. Um, we had a photo shoot when we first started, and there was a girl in the photo shoot who happened to work for Kohl's and was in the Veterans Employee Resource Group for Kohl's. She was so moved by what we did, shared it with her employee resource group. This was like a year before we even got the offer from Kohl's. And Kohl's just happened to call us and say, hey, we're interested in what you guys are doing. We think it's dope. And I didn't hear from them for a year. And then a year later, like 2023, I get a call from Kohl's and they say, hey, I know it's a little bit short notice. This was like May
Yeah.
of May. Yeah, May. And we want to feature y'all for our November 2023 initiative. Can y'all produce 30,000 units of this 600 stores plus our e-commerce? And us being SF guys, we're like, yeah, of course we can do that. I mean, we do that all the time. And we didn't do that at all. And this was May. Maybe April, but I'm gonna say May. So and they were gonna be uh they needed us to have everything ready by September. So
Mhm.
that's why I mentioned a month. So from May to September, we had to figure out how to ramp our operations, get 30,000 units, establish assembly lines, get the right personnel to fulfill all of that, so that an 18-wheeler truck on September, whatever it was, will be at our doorstep to pick up all these units and get them to the stores. So the learning curve was, yeah, I mean, it wasn't even like people say it was a steep learning curve. This was like doggone like a 270 degree learning. There was no learning curve. It was just like we had to just be bulls in a china shop and figure it out, man. So I love that story. The long story short, we made it happen, and it was awesome, man. It was one of those experiences that is a life memory,
Hmm.
that I always reflect on, and probably the hardest thing I've ever done, man.
I was gonna say, I know that that's a make or break moment right there.
Yeah.
That's a like a no shit. We make it or we don't, and this is gonna freaking if you don't, you're breach of contract and the company's done.
Yeah, man. It caused a lot of like hard conversations between the
Yep.
founders. Um, I'm not gonna put our dirty laundry out there, but
No.
to it's real, man. Because you're dealing with a company who's not gonna pay you,
Yep.
net such and such. I'm not gonna disclose that info, but it's not like you're getting paid up front. So you got to figure out how to fund all of this in a matter of months, how to print all of these items, make them logistically, get them to where they need to be.
Yeah.
Then you got to train up a force to make it happen to standard. And you got to do that day in, day out, day in, day out. And then on top of that, you got to be your own logistical resupply, figure out how to calculate the space you need for long road transportation, load it up effectively, label it effectively to go to 600 different stores. So it was so many things that we had to do, with a staff of four.
Yeah.
Um, and it was very reminiscent of our mission sets. If we didn't come from the background that we came from in SF, I don't think we would have had the confidence to do it, because we relied heavily on that to just fuel us. Like, hey, do you remember this time that this is so much easier than that? We had a lot of those conversations, so that was cool.
Let's face it. Your take from it. Are you a better person from it, or are you worse off?
No, man, 100% better off.
Yeah, of course.
The on the back end, we didn't get invited back to Kohl's. We didn't have enough um, sales throughput, which is their metric.
Hmm.
It's like they want to see like 50 something percent or something like that, and we were like real shy of it.
Hmm.
And at the end of it, I was just really happy that we, as a nobody entity,
Yeah.
got invited to that platform, and we sold like that much,
Yeah.
with no marketing. Some code we drove across the country. Me and Chris, we were again, man, we're stupid. We drove like from Texas to Las Vegas, and we stopped at like Kohl's along the way. And we would go to some Kohl's, and our shirts would be like in the bra section. And we would go to some Kohl's, and we would be like featured, and we would take pictures and be so proud and just stand in the store, and people would be like, "Well, can I help you?" We're like, "Nah, man, we're just looking." Like, so it was cool, man, to start a company late 2020, November 11, 2020, and then by 2023 November, you are basically in 2 years you're distributed nationwide.
Yeah, that's wild. That
It
is
was very
wild.
wild,
Yeah.
real
That's
wild.
one of those once in a lifetime, like it is. Like and you're absolutely that's not stupid to drive across the country taking pictures and stuff with that. I know what you mean. It is. You're proud of that moment and you celebrate that win right there. You know how it is the next day. It's like, all right, we gotta get off it and back after it and stuff.
Yeah,
But absolutely celebrate those wins, man. That's important too. A lot of people discount it and they're like, well, you know, but if you don't celebrate that win, you're not gonna be as hungry for that next one.
100%. Yeah, way better off, man. It was a great experience. So I appreciate you asking.
So what led to Black Ops and stuff? I know I've seen, I think it was you were the first one to have Major Capers on, right? Like
Correct.
one of the first. Yeah, and present the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. So Black Ops, let me just preface by saying that everything that we've done to date has been almost almost a react to contact drill.
Hmm.
Nothing has really been by design. We threw the flashbang in the room just as a, antidote to say, hey, motherfuckers, we're here.
Yeah.
And, we're going to talk our shit. Hopefully you can curse on here.
Oh, absolutely. You are not. This is
Okay,
all
cool.
about amplifying you, man, and like
Okay, cool.
you because people
Uh,
resonate with you. You know,
yeah.
this is
So,
Ruben.
yeah. So, it's 2020. We're talking our shit, throwing the flashbangs. We're the guys who have the audacity to say what everybody's thinking. And, nobody's going to challenge us on it. And that took us so far. We did the Kohl's thing. We're doing our thing as a clothing company. And what organically happened around 2023 with the Kohl's deal and the, kind of the notoriety we were gaining is now people are coming to us to make their clothing
Mhm.
organizations. So we set up this B2B um, arm of Triple Nickel, and we're working with a lot of different organizations. One of those happened to be the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus, Ohio. And we got invited up there to look at the gift shop, interact with the then CEO, retired Lieutenant General Michael Ferder, who, we become cool. And one of the things that they were lacking at the museum was again, it's just going back to this term of diversity.
Yeah.
And how to make things exciting, how to make things relatable to people to come to the museum. So they asked us our thoughts. If we were kings for a day and we had our own exhibit, what would we do? And Chris and I, we were the ones who were there, and we were just joking around, and we said, man, what if a museum had an exhibit called Black Ops, and it was just featured black special operators, from different branches of the military from 1948 to present. That shit wouldn't fly, but it would be funny,
Yeah.
And we shared that with the museum, and they loved the idea, which was, wild to me. And they challenged us and said, hey, why don't you guys put some thought into that, but expand it to different underserved groups? And that's what we did. And ultimately what we fell on was creating a documentary series called Black Ops, and we broke it down into 3 seasons. Season 1 being African Americans and South. Season 2, which will be going into pre-production now, is women, Asian Americans, Arab Americans served in South. And then season 3 is Latinos and Native Americans. But the idea is providing an individual an episode each season that allows them the opportunity to tell their journey into special operations, how it was for them in their era, how it shaped their lives, and then what they're doing afterwards.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with war stories. For us, we felt that if you want to go listen to war stories, you go to YouTube and plug in one of the TMZ sites that's telling all the war stories.
Yep.
So that's what we wanted to do with Black Ops, and that's how we landed on that. The evolution of everything else that we're doing with Black Ops just came from how do we best let people know that we are doing this documentary. So in order to market it, we came up with the roadshow, and that's how we got roadshows. And then we go to these roadshows in different towns, and people are like, "This shit needs to be a foundation. You guys are killing it. We want to donate." And we're like, "Well, crap! Now we got to make a foundation." So we made a foundation. So everything has been like very reactive in
Yeah.
that nobody, we didn't sit down with a map and say, hey, this is our timeline, this is what we're going to do. So that's been the fun part about it. It's been a creative process, honestly, from day one.
I mean, that's that organic shifting, and you guys are just following the not only the calling and stuff, but it also sounds like the need. Like people are reaching out and saying, "Hey, this is needed, and we love this." You know, and it really just boils down to, again, why do a lot of people join up? They're wanting to be something that's part of something that's bigger than themselves and to give back. And it seems like that's exactly what you guys are doing here in everything you're doing here, which is it's awesome. There needs to be more of that.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we adhere to, again, man, when in doubt, we just go back to things that we've been taught. And, principles of patrolling is big for us. We talk in these terms. We're kind of nerdy. We do a lot of SILs. For those who don't know what that is a silent listen hold. We're out on the street,
Yep.
as we like to call it. We're beating the street, and we just take a knee and we just listen. Because left to our own devices, we are gonna make the wrong decisions.
Mhm.
I may come up with an idea. We're all good idea fairies, but it may not hit. So we just listen to what people got to say, and if it's in our wheelhouse of resources to make it happen, then that's direction that we go in.
Man, that's the way it should be, and I love it. I love to hear that. How was it? How was that first? I mean, what was the first episode for Black Ops? I know the Capers one, that was a big one, but I think that was the end of season one. Like, how was it the
Yeah.
scramble to put that together?
Difficult, very difficult. So I'm gonna define difficult like this. It doesn't matter the ethnicity we're dealing with of the person in special operations. Special operations community is very difficult to get in front of,
Hmm.
by especially on the operational side.
Hmm.
Not so much for folks who are in the support side. So finding the right subjects was one thing.
Yeah.
Getting those subjects to be willing to talk to us was another. The problems that we had were, number one, getting people to believe that we can make a good documentary, because
Hmm.
we weren't filmmakers.
Yeah.
We aren't a clothing company. We aren't like traditional clothing makers. So, there's the problem of getting people to believe in the product.
Hmm.
Now we got to get people to believe that we're movie makers when we're not.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then to let us into their homes, you know, and film in their most intimate areas and talk about shit that probably they've never talked to anybody about on camera. So those were the most difficult parts of it. Then it's syncing up everybody's timeline. So that was probably the most difficult part of it. So going into it, we we wanted to find an avatar, a subject that fell into one of the branches of the military from 1948 to present. They had, just for season one, they were, black or black Latino, from that cloth. They had to have served in special operations in either operational support or direct support capacity. And then we had a casting director, Mike Clark, one of our SF buddies, and it was his job to find those people. So, Major Capers, he's episode number 5 out of 8. And just to answer your question, to get a guy like him, very difficult.
Yeah.
And he just happened to be at Mike Clark happened to be at a Force Recon, Marine Force Recon reunion.
Yep.
And he saw Major Caper sitting by himself at a table, and it was a cold call. He just went to the table and he had an elevator pitch. Sir, we love your story. We want you to be part of our documentary we're putting together. I know you don't know me. He just gave his quick rundown, of who we were, and luckily Major Capers agreed. But that's really how probably the majority of our subjects came on board. It's just through elevator pitches.
Well, yeah, and making that connection and it, that's one thing I do have to say is I think that the special forces guys are a lot better at is making that human connection because it's part of the skill set that you have with the job, comes with the job, comes with the territory.
It definitely helps. It definitely helps. And I'll tell you one thing too is it's helpful that we come from the community because it makes it easier to have the conversation and ask the right questions. And one thing that Major Capers told us and shared with us that really nailed it home for us was he has a full blown documentary on him
Mhm.
that was created a few years ago. It's called Team Broadminded. And then after that, his fame just kind of faded away till we came back on the scene. Um, he told us that there has never been people that look like him interested in his story, especially from the community. So that was why he allowed us to come to his house and record, because he knew he already had that bond with us,
Yeah,
and that was really special. Got that on camera. It was a really cool moment.
I bet. That's everything. That's everything that's driven your mission the entire way, and to get that confirmation back from someone that's been through what he has and at the level and everything.
Oh,
That's got to feel just incredibly validating and like, you know what, that we made the right choice here, number one. But now I'm sure the charge was also heavy on your end too. Like, how did that feel? Like after that, and all right, now we have to go and present this. Like, how are we gonna do that? Because I'm sure that that made it just all the more pressing that need to be out there.
it's always hard, so season one has 8 episodes and really seven. The first episode is myself, Chris, and Mike kind of making our case on why we're doing this. So if somebody puts it on, um, they understand why we're doing it. It's not like we're victimizing ourselves. It's more, hey, this is why we're doing this. So those seven people, like I feel all of their weight and all of their experiences on our shoulders.
Yep.
We have retired General Remo Butler, the first black special forces officer to make general. Huge legacy.
Yeah.
To be invited into his house, have a conversation for hours on end about everything and anything, and tell his story, right? Good God, man. You know, um, to be able to look at his wife and his wife not being mad at us because we're putting out shit product, or his son, that weighs heavy. Mad Max, he's a Ranger Hall of Fame. The Ultimate Ranger has got action figures made after him. A guy like that with such a huge community and following, we gotta get it right.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, every single one that we do, it's not only just the individual, it's their family, it's their legacy that they're entrusting us to tell it right. So, man, it weighs heavy, man. Like this shit sometimes keeps us up at night.
That
Um,
as it should, honestly. I no, I mean, I think that's kind of like what keeps some of us on the right path too.
yeah.
There is, it hits me hard sometimes when I start thinking about taking shortcuts with certain things. And there was a saying that was always said from my command in the unit and stuff. Well, there's two of them really that drive me, but one of them was hard right over easy wrong. And doing the right thing and presenting it the right way and sticking to that when you see a lot of other ways you could have taken the shortcut or made it all about yourself or uh, you know X, Y, and Z. I don't even need to go down that path right now because it's people know they see it out there and stuff. So stick to the right path. It's not always easier, but in the long run, that's where really the reward is because when those guys that you served with come back and they're like, you did it the right way, man. Like, thank you for honoring that. Um, that means a lot, and I'm sure it means a ton to you guys too, man. It's really good stuff that you're putting out. It is.
I appreciate it. And within the special operations community, there's very little room for error. I think I don't have to. tell anybody that you can go on YouTube right now and it's like fratricide. It's ridiculous, man. So you can go on any podcast, say the wrong thing, people are gonna fact check you on it. Or if they don't like it, man, you will get murdered.
Oh,
Not literally, but so if that was in the back of our mind too, you know, it's like we gotta do it, we gotta do it right, get the right editors, and you know, and it's going back to like the Coles deal. It was building the right team, you know, the whole process, probably the golden thread of these past almost 5 years for me is you know, kind of look at like, you know, we're like the Wu-Tang Clan. And my job is the RZA, love hip hop, so I use a lot of hip hop references. Um, is managing a team of creative individuals who, you know, we all got to go in the same direction,
yep.
but everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And that's what it has literally been. You know, now before we know it, you know, we have a production company that we are establishing by virtue of everything that we've had to do with putting together the documentary series. We have a clothing company. We have a B2B division that's dealing with organizations that want merchandise. We have a roadshow team with a full production team that rolls with us city to city to city. Um, we got this nonprofit, um, and we're working with school districts. So now that I step back and look at it, we're affecting literally hundreds, if not thousands of people. Um, and it's scary, man.
Oh, and only more to come as you go along in it. You know, I mean, it's the I like to use the analogy of the rocket ship. You know, off the ground, you gotta expand or you have to use the most amount of energy to get it off the ground. But the closer you
Yeah,
get, and then once you start punching through the atmosphere, it just becomes easier and easier. You know, and that's not to say like it's an easy thing, but you're used to that. You know, you've
yeah.
built it up to that, and you're like, okay, like what's the next thing we're adding to it?
That's a great analogy, actually. Perfect analogy. Yeah, yeah. You just keep shedding off. You know, it's like you said. It's not that it gets easier. You just get better.
Yeah.
And you know, you shed off. You know, like the rocket ship. It's got stuff coming off of it. Yeah, it's a great. I like that. I'm gonna use that.
Small improvements over time, man. That's everything along the way on this, and you know that's some of the stuff you said there too. I mean, with the fact to where you have to be humble enough to not become that person out there that is the spotlight ranger, if you will, um, with pointing at itself. I so behind me here that with the book end of things, I had somebody reach out during everything was like, hey, uh, I do things on stolen valor and whatnot, and I looked you up, and I've done a exhaustive research on the back end, and I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm like, what do you mean thank you? It's like thank you for not being fake, not being one of the freaking ones out there that's bull, because there's a lot of it out there and people just don't know. That's what I do as my hobby on the back end, but I'm an investigator on this stuff. And I was like, oh, I had no idea, but all right, thanks, man. I appreciate it. you know, but it just took me back. But there is like, and I almost think that's kind of some of the reason why some of what's going on out there. I had a discussion about this earlier today, actually, with somebody, is that um, it is easy to fall off the right path. Um, it is. And people want truth, and people are these days are going to hold you accountable for it. And in one way, it's good. It's good in that way because there are eyes on you and you are supposed to be an example. And it is best to stick to that. It might be harder to stick to the right path, but stick to the right path because ultimately you are influencing, again, like you just said, hundreds, thousands, and who knows how many other people out there. Who are you going to be? What's your character going to be like when they hold it to the fire? Are you forged or are you
Man,
just going to fall apart and crack?
you know, we talk about this constantly. The hard thing to do is to do what everybody is not doing. And we are incentivized now with shorts, reels, um, short and long form content on social media. and on streaming sites to talk about the most kinetic things. And I'm just talking about within, veteran community.
Yeah.
The most kinetic, the more kinetic, the better.
Yep.
And it's real easy to, the conversations we've had with our team, amongst our team, we have um we have folks who have crazy combat stories. And the easy thing would be to just get on our platforms and just start pumping pumping the airwaves with these stories. But when you look at the impact, it's like there's no for me there's no growth behind that. And then you fall into the trap of, now you told this story so many times. When I go to the next one, I need to tell it just a little bit different. Before you know it, becomes something completely different. Versus, like, how do we get back to normal to just telling regular stories that's gonna inspire, that's gonna allow people to grow through your mistakes, or through your journey? Because all these cool things that we've done, downrange or whatever, it's a really, when you look at it, it's a really short part of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And afterwards, unless you contract forever, like a Billy Wall or something, you you're gonna go back into society. You're gonna be a regular person. So that's where we live. And unfortunately, man, that as of now, that doesn't garner a lot of traction. And that is our current problem set, is how do you make what we're doing attractive at scale?
That's something that I talked about, I've talked about with a few people. And I do think that that end is changing for people. I think that people are starting to get tired of that end of things. Where you were saying the things with the kinetic stories and whatnot, I hate to go back to this end, but that end where I wrote the book about my experience in Afghanistan, and it was an insane time over there. I mean, over 50% casualty rate. It was stuff to where uh, day after day, you could just I filled and this was just from one platoon standpoint, filled a book with it. And it wouldn't be hard to hit the other ones and everything else. But what's the next step forward? After I got
Right.
that down, and it's like, okay, now I have this down in a historical type record for these guys and for myself. And we have some of the things from that within the museum down in Fayetteville, actually. But like, where do you go from there? Like, what good is it doing amongst the other guys? Where are they benefiting from any of this? And I can tell you from interviewing and talking with a lot of them that some of them have moved on, but a lot of them still hang a lot on there, and they haven't gotten past that, and they're stuck in this constant trauma cycle. So it's like I was thinking about some of the things that I've done, uh, on the side of education, on the side, and it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy moving forward to get to where I am now, and I'm still trying to move forward in things. But what can the next project be to give back to those guys or put something back to where? And I started thinking of how podcasting, like, all right, I'm going on these commutes, going to school. That's how I started picking up information for the marketing end of things. Okay. Uh, Started bringing stuff to the professor, where they had questions and I would answer it in a complete different way than the curriculum. And they're like, where did you get this information? Like, how are you coming about it in this way? I mean, it's not wrong at all. Like, it's just 3 steps above what we were teaching here. This is undergrad. And I'm like, well, we have all this information now online. Why is this not being put out there? So I really think that this stuff that you guys are doing through Black Ops and putting that out into a record to where somebody can just log on to YouTube or log on to wherever the docu series and stuff is, and have this in a format that stays. It doesn't go away. It's out there now, and it's just there forever. They can always go back and access this or glean from it, or you listen to something a second time and you pick other things up. But that's the whole thing behind this end, is how do I inspire through other people and other good people out there that have their head on their shoulders doing the right mission. And I really do think that we're starting to see a shift to where our generation, the global war on terror generation, that call is out there for us, kind of like the World War II greatest generation had. And it's time to step up to the plate. And you guys are some of the first wave to start doing that. And it's phenomenal. It's awesome to see that.
No, I appreciate that sentiment. Yeah, 100% correct. It's almost like, we're maturing,
Yeah.
as a cohort, I guess you want to call us that, although we vary in age. But yeah, you're right. We gotta start doing some healing. Um, but if we're stuck on the worst days of our lives,
Yes.
it's hard to get out of that cycle, man. And that's, yeah, I think we definitely agree on that,
Yeah.
100%. You had mentioned about major capers, right?
Yeah.
When we That's one thing I'll state too, with these old guys. It's easy to it's easy to exploit their stories for for personal benefit. It's the only way, because people want that.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, and after we had him on, we started, really pushing his story, particularly to get him the Medal of Honor that
Hmm.
he deserves. Is following that, you start seeing invites to other platforms, and it's just focusing on one thing, and it makes me a little sad, because it makes guys like that very one-dimensional.
And they're a whole spectrum of stuff. I know I threw one of them, one of the guests for a loop because that's what he does. He comes on and talks about running and gunning and, that fight end of things. And when I was like in the beginning, and I told him, but I don't think I don't think it sunk in because he came on and we started talking. And at the end of the show off camera, he was like, man, that was not the typical interview for me. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you didn't want to know about any of that. And I'm like, no, I want to know on how you got to where you're at. I want to know the framework. I want to know the struggle you've been through because
Yeah.
there are other people out there struggling. There's a lot of pain out there within um, the community. And yes, how dare you boil it down to that person essentially being their combat story. They are so much more than that. That's something that they went through in that hurdle, but it's like, how did you get through that? How did you get through that? Past that, how did you reintegrate into society? And what are you doing now? What did you find successful for you? And to get those answers was great, but it was funny because he did afterwards say like, I have not been on anything like this. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry to throw you for a loop, but that's what I wanted to know because I don't see as much value in those stories.
100%. There's a definitely a time and place, especially with context, right? Because there could be leadership lessons learned, there could be adversity lessons learned with those types of engagements, but just to dwell on them just for reels, shorts, clicks, clickbait. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
content.
that's yeah, it's kind of played out to me.
Yeah, well, and it's the the unfortunate part is too is the algorithm and stuff. I mean, let's face it, like a lot of this stuff is turning into what people see as their entertainment platform. They're not turning on the television anymore to watch a full length 2 hour. They're scrolling through their phone, or a lot of the new generation, YouTube. Huge. All of them. Every single one of them is on YouTube, and um, my kids don't even know what a freaking commercial is. They're just like, what the heck is it? Why would we even be watching this? Why does this show up on Nana's TV? Like, what is this? It's just
Yep,
funny to me.
I understand.
Yeah. But what's you guys are heading into season 2,
Yeah.
right? What's are you currently taping now or
No, right now we are, uh, when I say pre-production,
yeah.
it is back to square one. It's finding the right avatars. We have, I would say, about a 70% solution of folks that we know have already committed.
Yep.
Um, but it's finding the remainder, locking them in, and taking the lessons learned from season one and applying them to season two.
Nice.
And, for those that are inspiring in film or anything like that, what that looks like is we went into season one very similar how we went into Triple Nickel, very similar how we went into Kohl's. We, we have a saying, we use free flow a lot. And what I mean by free flow, for those who don't understand what I'm saying, is we are so well in we're so well indoctrinated in finding work amongst ourselves. Is okay, we're gonna make this season one, and I know that we're gonna have to film. We need an executive producer. That's gonna be me, and I'm gonna do everything an executive producer does, even though I don't know what an executive producer does, and we're just figuring it out as we go. And as we go, we're like, holy shit, this is not how it goes. So it's taking those lessons learned, doing pre-interviews, so we know when we get to that person's house, it goes so much smoother. We know exactly now how many cameras we need, and so all of those things. So by next year, we're going into filming, and instead of a 12-month period to do everything, we're giving ourselves about 2 years to put out quality work.
Oh man,
Um,
that's gonna be excited. I'm
and
excited to hear that, man. That's gonna be awesome.
yeah, man, and we got some like really cool folks, man, that are lined up for this, man. Like we got some of the females that we got, coming from the tier one side of the house, that are now doing amazing things. Like I'm excited to tell those stories.
Heck,
Not that because we're advocating for any specific thing, but just because they got cool ass journeys. Like, how do you go from this to being top tier, that I want to know about that. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with it. We have two more episodes that still need to be released that are currently being edited on season one, and that'll be complete.
very cool. No, that's awesome. So I know we're coming up on time now, but where can people find Triple Nickel Clothing and where can they find the Black Ops project and some of the other stuff that you guys have going on?
Yeah. So take pen and paper out.
Oh, I'm gonna put
So
you all in the description links. People are gonna be able to just go down and do the click because
yeah,
honestly, that's how people work. If it's not within a click or two, it
yeah,
never gets gone to. So don't worry, I got
we
you on that way.
cool. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're in a season of house cleaning right now. But right now, if anybody wants to shop, Triple Nickel Pure, just go to triplenickel.com, Nikel. That's how it's spelled. We're in the process of separating our business to business and creating a whole separate website for that. As that business grows, um, we are getting ready to launch Black Ops TV, which, I'll talk to you about offline. But, Black Ops TV, again, is another React to Contact drill. We have been placing everything on Amazon Prime. That's been our distribution, you know, vehicle
Yeah,
for Black Ops, and it's become a little tough to work with. Not very user friendly. So that's forced us to create our own platform so we can push out this content. And through that, we realize like, well, we're going to need a lot more content. So because we've created this framework, it's a great opportunity to invite other content creators, um, a space to put their stuff on it and earn revenue that is higher than what you can get on other platforms. So that's the next thing, and that's where the content is going to live.
love it.
And then we have the Black Ops Foundation that we have just developed. It's just been approved by the IRS, And through that, we're doing youth mentorship. We have a pilot program that's standing up early 2026 with the Duval County School District in Florida. And that is our first attempt at creating a 9-week cohort with underserved communities and doing mentorship through storytelling and starting to affecting lives based off of a curriculum that's approved by a school district. And hopefully we can scale that cross country and impact more people.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I love to hear that, man. That giving back, and that's incredible that you guys are doing that and putting, I know just an inkling of what goes into some of that, and you really have to pour yourself into it to make it work. So that is so commendable to hear, and that's awesome. For those that are listening and stuff, go and check the description links because I'm gonna put everything in there. But that's incredible, the work that you're doing out there and what you've built through this and continue to grow through this. So it's amazing. I have to say thank you. Just from me alone to hear that, that's powerful stuff that you're working with, and especially in working with the youth, because that is, I mean, really that next generation upcoming and stuff. It's important. And in the day and age where we live, to where there's a lot of confusion and dissent sown out there, it's good to have somebody who's got their head on straight, pushing for the right reasons and making it happen. So, Ruben, thank you for everything you guys are doing out there, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity just to talk about it. It's always, I'm always thankful for that.
No, yeah, exactly. Thank you for coming on, as well. But stay tuned just for a minute. Like, stay on. I want to talk to you afterwards, but I
Okay.
appreciate it. Thanks for coming on to Veteran Success Story and sharing.
100% Will. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Veteran Success Story. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I know I really enjoyed the conversation with Ruben. And I'm going to put the links to Triple Nikel Clothing, as well as the Black Ops History Project and the Foundation, and Black Ops TV, which was just some of the things. Anything else is relevant, you'll find within the description link, as I try to keep it to a point to where you guys can just one click over to there. It's ease of access. So I hope you guys, again, enjoyed the episode. And thank you to Ruben for coming on to the show. So I'm going to have to ask you guys again, like, follow, and subscribe. And as you guys, as this starts to move forward and everything, I'm going to be able to, I swear, you guys do that end for me, and I will continue to put these episodes out and continue to improve during this process. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Be sure to check the description links. And until next week, this has been yet another Veteran Success Story.